I am just about back on track from the last couple of days' snowstorms. As usual, I have a lot of turds to clean up before I do anything fun today. Unfortunately, it does look like it might rain or hail or sleet, so I'm gonna try and hurry up and get through the outside pens as quickly as possible. As you can see, it is snowing not too far away from me, and there is a little bit of precipitation in the air. I've got Frisco Bill locked in Nigel's pen while I clean out his stall and get rid of all of these stems that he can't eat. These will be the perfect snack for Studman. With all this crazy weather we've been having, it is pretty easy to get down when you think about it, but powering through chores always makes you feel a little bit better. The last couple of days, Frisco has really enjoyed getting to be out in Nigel's little pen while Nigel's inside. And with his stall all clean, I can finally get out of here and turn him back into his run. It was raining pretty hard just a second ago, but the sun is really shining down now, so I'm gonna keep on pushing through all these chores and hope it doesn't rain more. This time of year is super hard to plan when I'm gonna ride the horses because we always have a bunch of these crazy rogue storms coming through. It does look like Frisco Bill cannot wait to get back next to his special mare. He is such a sassy old boy these days. I think Nigel has really made him a little bit extra sassy too. He is doing a lot of fancy maneuvering today, and it looks like his feet might be a tiny bit sore. It might be because of the little bit of senior feed he's still getting, or because he's been out on Nigel's lot eating the extra little grasses that are popping up. It is very, very slight, and I'm going to keep a close eye on him so it doesn't get worse. This time of year, with all of the horses getting turned out on grass, I keep a pretty close eye on how their feet are. The extra sugar in the grass can give them laminitis pretty easy if you're not paying attention. With Frisco being a little bit on the older side, I do think he is getting a bit more sensitive to it than he was in his younger days.
Frisco Bill?
He is operating at a pretty high level of sass today. Tiny has also been pestering me all day. When the weather's bad out, she just stays inside the barn, so these nice days she kind of springs back to life. I saw her out hunting some gophers earlier, and she's been really sharpening her talons on everything she can get her little paws on.
Come on, Tiny.
With Frisco Bill's run and stall all clean, I can continue with the day's chores. The recent snowstorm did make the mountains look especially picturesque today. I think all of that will probably be melted in the next couple of days. Unless, of course, it snows more today and tonight. Because there still is some variability to the weather, Nigel is going to stay inside with his brandy new sheet that one of you guys bought off of his wish list. Studman's stall looks really clean, but Skeletor needs to get turned out so I can clean the disaster that's happening in his stall. I will check the weather before I leave this evening, and if it's supposed to stay pretty dry out, I'll let Skeletor out for the nighttime too. It is way easier for me to clean up after him if he's out in this big run than in his stall. I was kind of surprised he didn't want to run around at all, but he was busy investigating what has been going on inside of his pen. There was a very suspicious puddle that he needed to check out. I am still thinking it might be kind of nice to have him over in the quarantine pen. I can pop in on him when I have a few extra minutes, and I'll be able to take him on walks on terrain that's a little bit more variable than I have around here. I would like to get him on the shaky plate, but he has been backing up off of it, and it's the worst kind of motion to make for the ligament that he has damaged. I think it might be more beneficial if I can get him in the creek that I have over there a few times a week. Tiny is being extra sassy today as
Oh.
well. I think she's a little bit jealous I haven't been spending much time with her. I figured it'd be a good idea if I got Studman out today and turned him out as well. He is getting pretty out of shape, so he can use as much exercise as he can get. I think he has actually gained some weight since Skeletor is not chasing him around all the time. Luckily, I'll be able to start working him very soon. I'm just going to go ahead and give him a quick brush before I turn him out. I had thought about working Studman today, but he's the kind of horse that really needs consistent work to make any progress, so for now I'm just going to turn him out. He typically doesn't really run around very much, so I was surprised that he galloped right off today. He has had his special shoes on for about 5 weeks now. I'm kind of surprised they're still on. They are glue-on shoes, and I didn't do a whole lot to prep the hoof wall before I slapped them on. He has also been standing in footing that is not ideal for glue-on shoes. This is the first time I use this particular model of glue-on shoes, and they seem to be really working well, and Studman also is moving quite nicely in them. He was foundered when I got him, and it's been a little bit of a struggle to get him sound with his super flat feet, and I'm sure it's not helping that he's a little bit overweight right now. He has definitely been moving pretty sound the last couple of weeks, so these shoes are probably going to be something that he's going to wear for quite a while. It looked like it was going to be clearing up, but there is a huge storm cloud that looks like it is sprinkling a little bit of snow. This is the type of weather we are still getting the next couple of days, so while I have a little bit of a clear sky, I might as well get this guy out and let him run around. You can see here he does have a little bit of a crusty neck. Part of that is because he was a stallion for so long, and the other part is he is a little bit overweight. I did want to show you guys his shoes, but his feet are pretty muddy, so maybe when I bring him in I'll get a better view. For a horse that was a stallion and hadn't had much handling, he turned into a pretty docile guy. I would love to be able to turn him out with the boys or with Whiplash and Goose, but given his sensitivities to his feet and his prior founder, I just don't feel comfortable putting him out on this nice spring grass. I do usually let him turn out on pasture later in the summer when the grass is kind of fried to a crisp. I have definitely noticed that with these shoes his feet are growing faster. I'm not sure if that's because he's actually moving around more and his feet aren't sore, but either way I'm gonna have to replace these shoes pretty soon. Even though he's been in his stall for a few days, he doesn't seem to have a whole lot of extra energy. I think once I start working him regularly, he is going to slim down pretty quickly. Goose has still been trying to escape pretty much every day. He just knocks that board down. I've gotten a little bit tired of replacing the screws every day, so I just go ahead and put it back up for him. Whiplash is looking pretty disgusting after the storm. He must have rolled in some fresh mud this morning and it's dried and he's all crusty. I definitely need to get in here with a shedding rake after I'm done cleaning the stalls inside. There have been a lot of new subscribers that have asked why I even have to ride a horse like Goose or Pete. The truth is, Goose and Pete both don't get ridden very often. Both of them have been started under saddle and been ridden a handful of times. But since I know I'm never going to sell them, they are usually the last ones for me to work because they do take quite a bit of days to get in the swing of things. I'm happy knowing that they have a safe place to hang out and they don't really cause any trouble. So for those two, getting them ridden under saddle is not typically a priority of mine. Both Goose and Pete do still have some stranger danger, even though I've had them for several years each. Both of them are still pretty reserved. They act a little bit different when they're by themselves or in a stall with a run. But for the most part, they definitely enjoy the company of other horses way more than they enjoy hanging out with me. If we do end up buying a place in a more hospitable climate, Goose and Pete will definitely have more opportunities to get worked. It is just really hard with the variability in our weather to get them on a good routine that's good for their brains.
Oh, Goosey.
The older I get, the less concerned I am about riding these horses every day. A lot of times I just like hanging out with them and making sure they have everything they need, especially the ones that came from unfortunate situations. We have been having a lot more crazy windstorm, and Goose seems to get these fairy knots in his mane every single day. I have recently really cut back on the amount of thrifting I'm doing, and hopefully I'll get a lot more time to just spend with the horses and make videos for you guys. I've done some calculations recently, and it looks like I might be able to just do YouTube full time in the next couple of months, which is really exciting because that just means I get more time with the horses ultimately. And hopefully I'll be able to help a lot more animals if that happens. But for now, I am pretty busy with the amount of horses that I have. There was a auction that I was going to head to tomorrow, but I just don't want to risk it not really having any spots open. I still have a few spring chores to get done, like cleaning up all this old wood that Goose broke. The barn is in a little bit of shambles.
Oh, Tiny.
I don't know what Tiny was doing with this mouse. It's pretty rare to see a field mouse in the barn.
Come on. Come on. Maybe don't eat this one.
I scooped her up and turned on the shaky plate to try and get the mouse out, which seemed to work. I think Tiny was really upset that I ruined all of her fun for the day. All these little distractions are pushing my stall cleaning efforts back quite a bit.
Nigel. Hey, buddy. Good boy. I see you.
I think Nigel is also a little bit annoyed that he has to stay inside again today.
I'm just here, Nigel.
With these stalls almost done, the only one I have left is to fix up Nigel's stall for the night. He is going to get a fresh bucket of water.
Bye, Nigel.
I have a few more random chores I have to do tonight. While I was putting these away, I thought I'd show you guys what Studman shoes actually look like. They get glued onto the hoof wall. I have a huge load of ration balancer that I need to unpack, but I'll probably save that for another day. Frisco is already enjoying his first bucket of mash for the evening. He needs his meals split up into 4 different meals throughout the day, so it's not too much volume at one time. Naturally, as soon as I'm done with all the chores, the skies start to clear up. I don't really mind too much. I'm just happy that I'm not getting hailed on and we're not in some kind of crazy snowstorm. Tiny slithered over to let me know that she was upset I let her mouse get away.
Tiny. Tiny.
She was really giving me the cold shoulder. She is a little bit upset with me, but she'll get over it eventually. My plans to start riding Ziggy have been delayed due to the weather, but I did get his saddle in the mail the other day. I found this on eBay and it's an older endurance saddle. It is supposed to be a stone wall, and I think this one does have an aluminum tree, which is pretty cool. The rigging on this saddle is pretty cool. It's like an adjustable center fire or 3-point rigging. This just allows you to let the location of the girth move either forward or backward depending on the horse's conformation.
Tiny.
I didn't get a chance to weigh this saddle, but it's between 10 and 15 pounds, I'd say. It is extremely light. It does have quite a bit of padding on the seat and some stripped down stirrup leathers. You can see here that someone tried to dye it, but they didn't get all the finish off. That's why it looks a little bit brown. I might strip it all down and re-dye it if I have the time, but it actually looks pretty good considering how old it is. They don't make these anymore, and people really seem to like them in the endurance community. It does have a real sheepskin liner on it and a bunch of different D-rings to attach things. It is very reminiscent of a McClellan saddle, which is like the older cavalry saddles they used to use. There are a lot of misconceptions about a saddle like this that doesn't have hardly any skirts. It is assumed because it's a smaller, lighter saddle that it would be easier on the horses' backs. But without the skirting to distribute a lot of the weight, that can be the opposite. Hopefully this saddle will fit Ziggy. It does look like the tree is going to work for him, but I won't know until I actually put it on him. It was a little bit on the tight side for me, and I was trying to get a video of it so you could see what a saddle looks like when it doesn't fit. But Tiny kept knocking over my phone every time I set it up. She is such a little stinker. I also noticed that there was a bird's nest inside the front of my trailer, and there are 3 little eggs in there. From the sounds of all the squawking, I think that's the mama bird over there on the manure pile. With the sun getting lower in the sky, I do need to start in on the evening feeding. It really stinks sometimes that I am the only person over here doing all these chores, but for situations like these, it's kind of nice to not have anybody out here watching me. I really thought I could swing my leg up onto this hay bale and wiggle up here to get some more hay down. But after doing some calculating with my ankle that's not 100%, I realized that this was probably a horrible idea. I'm trying really hard not to make any more unnecessary trips to the emergency room this year, so I'm gonna have to find out a different way to get this hay down. Buying this hay in bulk in these giant square bales does save me a lot of money, but sometimes it does get a little bit tricky getting the bale all the way on the top down. It is a good thing I have a giant human brain that I can use to troubleshoot these kinds of situations when they come up. My ankle is feeling a lot better, but I know it's going to be a few months until it's actually back to normal, so I'm going to try and be super careful. I am also really glad that today is the day that I'm probably going to wash my hair again because I am getting covered in little pieces of alfalfa with the wind blowing around. I got enough hay down for this evening's feeding and tomorrow morning for the horses in the barn at least. I tried to get as much of the alfalfa particles off of me as possible. And when I went to start my truck, I realized that I had lost my keys somewhere along the way. I definitely had them in my pocket when I started this little activity and they are gone now. I really would rather not call my husband to bring me the spare set of keys that I have, so I'm going to retrace my steps and hopefully find where I lost them. I spent about 20 minutes looking in the barn and around the truck and did not find them anywhere. This seems to be a typical needle in the haystack situation. After consulting Google about the message that popped up, it looks like the keys should be within a certain radius of the truck. I definitely could have lost them under the seat, but they weren't there. And after about 20 more minutes of looking for the keys, I spotted them underneath all of the alfalfa that I had just dropped down. This is more of the typical nonsense that ends up happening every day that prevents me from riding the horses. Once I located my keys, it was time to feed all of the horses their dinner.
Hey.
Studman acted like he was going to starve to death if I didn't feed him right away. I did give him a tiny little pile in the arena to keep him busy while I finished the rest of the chores. Whiplash is a little bit on the disgusting side, and I don't really want to leave him until tomorrow. So after I'm done getting all of the breakfast prep for tomorrow and giving Nigel his dinner mash, I am going to make the time to go ahead and try and get some of that nasty hair and mud off of Whiplash. It looks like a lot of the cloud cover has returned from earlier in the day. The ground is still pretty wet, so I did not continue turning the horses out on their little tiny pastures. It is also extra risky because the grass probably stored a lot of the sugars because of the low temperatures. I will just have to continue my introduction to pasture when the weather's a little bit nicer out. Even with the weather being super crazy, it is really nice to be able to stay at the barn until 7 or 8 o'clock at night. The few extra hours do give me a little bit of time to kind of unwind and hang out with the horses after I have all of the chores done. Goose was a little bit suspicious as to why I was interrupting their dinner. He is a pretty curious horse, but I do think that he's always going to be a little bit afraid of humans. Studman was making it near impossible for me to get these guys groomed. I have one more side to get through on Whiplash, and then I can bring Studman in and be done for the evening.
Okay, come on. Come on. Come on.
Studman did not seem like he was a hurry to get back into the barn. He slowly slinked away and made it a little bit tricky for me to catch him. He did not put a whole lot of effort into it, and it only took me about 3 minutes to finally get a halter on him. I think he was more interested in stealing Whiplash and Goose's hay than going into the barn and eating his own hay. Here is a better look at his fancy shoes now that he has a lot of the mud knocked off of them. I can see that there's some cracking at the glue around the edges, so they'll probably need to come off relatively soon. This is the very last thing I have to do for the day before I head over and check on Ziggy and give him his dinner. It is around 7:30 when I'm finally able to go back to the quarantine pen and get Ziggy situated.
Come on.
I was finally starting to relax when Ragnar came over to supervise me for this evening's feeding.
Hey, buddy.
Sometimes I feel like my whole day is dictated by the cats.
Hey, come on.
Ragnar is an inside-outside cat, and he does spend most of the day outside pouncing here and there. I've had him since he was less than a day old, so he's pretty attached to me. Here is a little video a few days after I got him. He was the cutest little kitten. I think I may have smothered him a little bit too much when he was growing up because he does do a few weird things. He loves being outside, but he is a totally different cat when I make him stay inside all the time. Ziggy is ready to be ridden, but I think I'm going to wait until I have him over at the barn.
What? Come on.
Ragnar was upset that I wasn't stopping to snuggle him. I did brush Ziggy earlier today, so this evening I'm just basically going to toss him his hay. Before Ragnar has a complete conniption fit, I'm going to go ahead and give him a little bit of a snuggle session. He wastes no time and gets right to making biscuits on me. I think he's smelling tiny on me and could be a little bit on the jealous side.
Hey, come on. Come on. Come on.
I think he might be a little bit upset that we're already on our way back to the house.
Come on.
I was pretty depressed the last snowstorm we had, so today was the perfect reset day. It does look like the weather is forecasting that after the 1st of June, we are going to be in the 70s for the duration, so that is really exciting. This spring seems to really be dragging along, so I'm going to be so excited when I finally get to start actually riding some of the horses. I am still hoping to maybe meet my goal of 100,000 subs by Scarlett's birthday, which is July 1st. I also bet my husband a steak dinner, which I really don't want to lose, so if you're not already subscribed, think about doing that to help me reach my goal. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for the next video.